Welcome back to the channel. This is the chicken coop edition. So built in 1914. As you can see there, I'm out here on a Saturday morning and just did a couple little things. Just did 3 lintels installed. But this building, built in 1914, and the owners have always had the property, and they have fond memories of being in the chicken coop with their parents or grandparents. So we decided to leave the original structure, which is brick, clay brick, like a Chicago brick, and they stuccoed over it. Probably wasn't stuccoed over originally, and it was just brick, but then over the years they did. And the roof was collapsing in, so they're gonna turn this in to an art studio for them and her husband. So that's what we are doing. We're doing everything we can to keep the integrity of the walls, which is tough, and everything that's been sitting for a long time. It does have this cool brick around each of the doors and windows that was painted red, as you can see. And you can see these forms up here, and I'll go into more detail, but we tore out the roof and then we had to form up because the brick was so bad and the top cap was so bad. We formed up with 2x12s treated, and these will stay on here. They'll be our forms and they'll stay on there, and then we'll cover them up with some LP Smart. But as you can see, that has got to get trimmed off so it's flush and makes the roof line. But I'll show you what we did. This is one dumpster right here just for the chicken coop. And then here also is all the scrap metal, some antique refrigerators or coolers in there. So save those, and everything else is pretty much scrap, but we'll show you what we have going on. All right, that is our scrap pile that we found in the shed. As I mentioned before, nobody's been using this for a long time. It's just been junk, and this is one whole dumpster full just of this building. Was all the roof. Actually, this is the second dumpster for this building. So the roof took up one dumpster and everything else took up another. So this is some decorative brick they have around the windows. I think these might be the original old doors, and then they did some windows, some vinyl ones. But we're gonna put some new Anderson 400 series white on white into these window openings, and then get some new thermal true doors to go in. So we kept really careful. This brick is very fragile because it's clay and just deteriorated over the years. So cutting it is simple, but just we don't want to bust anything out from the inside out. So far we've done a good job. Nothing has crumbled, which is good. Hopefully it stays like that. It had some big stress cracks here and here, and we epoxied those in. And this is why we have, part of the reason why we have this ledger board up top to lock everything in. We're gonna put some carriage bolts in, and then put some rebar in, just a little bit of fiberglass rebar. It's only about 5 inches thick, 5 to 6 inches thick in spots, because we got this nice and level. This is our reference line. I had the laser set up. So 55 and 5/8 from our laser. I lasered from one side of the building to the other. And then we drew up from there, and then we snapped a line. So, and that's what that is. 2x12, like I mentioned, will stay. I have some trim up to do and some screws to put in, but we'll have to trim this up so it kind of creates the roof line. And that's what the form work will do. And then we'll put a frame on top of that and put a steel white roof on top of that. So it's gonna have AC in it. So this back wall is gonna come up about 2 foot, and we're gonna have one of those units that just sits in the wall and has a compressor outside, like a Mr. Cool unit is what I've used before. And we're gonna run power out here and probably water. It had water out here originally, and I'll show you that. And that's the spigot right there. Original water from the well. So we'll do the same thing, is run something up here. So this form work, we're gonna add rebar in it. It strengthened the wall because the wall was very not sturdy. And you can see it has a little bit of a bow to it, the wall does, but we locked it all in, so everything's locked in. And we're gonna put some rebar in here, so we're gonna do some dowels into here, just coming up a little bit, and then we'll run one thing of rebar, fiberglass rebar, and tie it to those dowels. And then this is going to be the cap to where we frame on, and then we'll do a 2x6 on top of this, treated, and put the sill sealer underneath, and then we'll frame our roof, our pitch. It's about a 412, so nothing crazy. So, but this is basically our formwork for our concrete and for the roof. Here we have two different roofs meeting, so this is the angle of the roof. And it's going to go here, so we have to create just a little bit of a form here, so this is flush all the way. Or that, I'm thinking maybe we cut this down and cut this down so this is all one. So then we'll put, we'll stop the formwork here, the flat part here, so then our roof is slanted. So yeah, we'll cut this back a little bit to the edge of this and cut that up, and then that will be the flat, and then everything else will be the sloped for that aspect of it. So that was what we'll do. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the best thing is going to do, we're going to create this flat all the way across, so it's just going to have a little bit of a form here and here, and then we'll create this cap flat all the way, and then this is going to go here, so it's going to have a little bit of a lip up there for the framing, which is fine. We can put a treated here, maybe double it up, and then that will give us what we need to get. So there's kind of just an awkward point on these roof lines. Other thing I could do is I could rip this all the way down to this roof line, so then the pitch is all the same, and pour that, but then when I frame and put my plate on top, it's not going to be, it's going to be slanted. So kind of two things there. So I don't know, I don't want to have it slanted. I know when I was in Florida, we always poured the caps nice and level around everything. Obviously this has got a pitch, so this cap should be level. That cap's going to be level, even that has a little pitch to it, so we're not, you know, going to raise that front side to equal that pitch. We're going to keep that level. So I'll probably do the same thing. We'll just keep that level, and I'll cut off that part of it and make that level. So getting back to this point, I'll probably do the same thing. I'll just keep this level here, and it's going to have a concrete lip here, a little 3/4. So worst case, I can just beef this up 3/4. But then this bottom plate's going to be level all the way, and then we can do our framing on top of that, and we're just going to have the framing go long. Then we'll put some straps on here, or put those truss screws in. But that's the plan. Old farmhouse. So today there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 openings. So today I put these lintels in. They didn't have any lintels. These windows went up way too high, so it hurts the integrity of the brick. So we are going to, I dropped these down about 3 inches, and then I put these lintels in. So I took a grinder and some other tools, hammer drill, and was very careful I didn't bust out the other side, but these go in 3¼ inches, and they're 5 inches there. And then we'll put a cap underneath here that is with this slope, and we'll pour all this with concrete, this form board. Everything else will just get patched in with stucco, because we're going to take a fiberglass mesh on the inside, embed it into our stucco scratch coat, and just stucco this whole inside of the wall. We could technically frame in, I guess. That would be one other option, frame in all new walls and then insulate it. So we might do that, propose that. I mean, it'll take up 7 inches, but then these pillars will kind of be inside the wall. So that might be the best option, just frame this in so we can insulate properly. And then on the outside, we can do stucco. So that's what I think we might do. And we'll just fix all these cracks up real good, get some mortar flex and fix, and some stucco repair, and get that all, you know, all good to go, and just fix up these big cracks and on the bottom here. Also too, we're gonna put 2 inches of foam down. So we're gonna screw that into this concrete slab. This concrete slab is not level at all. It's all messed up. So we're gonna take 2 inches of foam, the NGX foam. So it's good for underneath concrete. And then we're gonna do a 4-inch concrete, and then that will tie in. We're gonna rebar into the walls, and that will tie in everything into the walls. So it'll be nice and structurally sound. So that's what we'll do eventually. And then that height, 2 inches and 4 inches, 6 inches up. So these doors are gonna be a little bit smaller, but we kept the decorative part of the outside. Otherwise, I would go up another, probably a foot to get a regular height door, but that's not gonna be the case. It's gonna be a little bit smaller door. Obviously, I can walk out now. Right now, they're a regular height, but once we get that 2 inches and 4 inches, it's gonna be close, and the homeowners are shorter, so that won't be an issue for getting into the door. So that's the plan, and I'll do these other 4 eventually, but super hot out today and muggy. But I put these lentils in. I put some PL in here, premium, and some power grab on the one side, and just stuck it right in there so that will hold. Eventually I'll drill some holes. Once those set, I'll drill some tiny holes into the steel. It's about 3/8 thick, and then I'll just put some tap cons in there to hold it if I need to. If I don't, and then also too, I'm gonna frame this in, so it's gonna have a 2x4 treated all the way around. So 2x4 treated all the way around. Technically, you don't need a header in there with the steel lintel, so I'll get some windows with some nailing fins, and then I'll just 2x4 it all around so that we can get that all sealed up properly. But so I did 3 of them. This pole is holding that one up because a little bit of the brick broke out on the inside, but not the outside, luckily. And so that's holding that up till that sets up. But so we'll get the rest of these torn out eventually. I'll put these other lintels in everywhere. This one was like what the window looked before, and then we'll put that lintel straight across, 3 inches down for the windows. But that's kind of the look. And yeah, I think I'm gonna propose, framing this in instead of spending all that money on stucco, and it's not gonna get a good insulation value, especially if it's heat and cooled. And we gotta heat and cool the roof too, so we gotta do a good insulation in there. I think it's gonna be best to just stick frame this. After we pour the concrete and foam, we'll have a nice level surface, and we'll stick frame and insulate it. Put our vapor barrier on, and then probably drywall it, or whatever they want to do, a beadboard or wood interior. We probably could do 4x8 sheets of beadboard, and that will cover a lot of square footage. But framing the walls, we'll get rid of these pillars, and then it's all one straight wall, which would be nice. And you know, we have all these fixes to do. Crack here, so I think that's the plan. Or I'll propose it. That's going to be the most cost effective than wasting a ton of time trying to stucco this and make it look like it is. And then drilling into the stucco and hanging things and all that stuff is kind of a pain, but we'll see what they say. But this is what it looks like. But has some big cracks. There was a big crack there that we filled on this pillar. And I'll walk on the outside. This was the old door that we took out back here. There's still cleanup to do. We took out as much stuff as we could. And this is what it is. So you can see this hairline crack here, or big crack where it settled. But we're gonna scoop all this up. I got a guy coming to ask for scoop all this up, put 4 inches of gravel, crushed concrete around the building just to kind of get cleaned up. They need to empty this huge trailer that has stuff. So they'll do that eventually, and then that will hopefully get moved, but we'll just have to hand do this. But I figured we're gonna dig down 4 inches, put crushed concrete everywhere. But this is what the backside looks like with the formwork. So obviously, like I said, I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do there. I mean, I could rip this down all the way across, and then that concrete cap is angled, but I'm just thinking all the foundation concrete walls should be nice and level. This obviously is not, because I mean, ideally, you know, we had to make this level here, so we're gonna have to just fill in this little bit, so then it goes all the way across, and then the framing we'll just have to double up 2x6 treated to miss that. So we'll get that figured out. But this is the backside, and it has some cracks, obviously more cleanup like this crack. So I think stuccoing the outside is beneficial. Putting a kind of a plastic mesh on it. They have that instead of a lath. And I watched a ton of videos, and this is a huge crack that needs filled too. So, a ton of videos about stucco. I mean, this is all held up pretty decent besides the corners. So, I mean, you got some stress fractures here. But they always say in here that for these cracks, you could fill them with mortar flex and kind of blend it in, or you can just fill them and stucco over it. But if you go over the top of this stucco, you need at least a 1/2 inch thick product. So, and they also too make some James Hardy stuff, which would not be bad. And it's all finished. And then maybe here, start with the James Hardy all the way around and then leave this original stucco here and just fix the cracks here. And that would be the other option. And what we would do with that James Hardy stucco, since this is a stucco product, I probably would have to glue it on. I'm about to look more into that. We would definitely fix all these cracks with mortar flex so they're nice and good, but then we could just go over the top of this, hopefully. But we'll have to see. It's not all in bad shape. As you can tell, it's about 1/4 inch to 3/8 thick. So it's pretty good, and it's not really loose. I mean, you got your hairline cracks, but not bad. It's just a matter of, I think once we get the crushed concrete in, this will help with some of this stuff. And we epoxied this and made it better. So just a matter of getting that blended in and making that all, good to go. This is all locked in now with these huge lags. So the wall's not going anywhere. So it's just stress there. But otherwise, that is the game plan for the chicken coop. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and go from there.